Hi there, this is Jason Eagle for Strategic Healing, your natural health authority. And Happy New Year. This is from my new office. And so I wanted to do a message about New Year's resolutions, things like that. People always kind of resolve to, it's the new year. I need to try better. I'm going to make a resolution and boy, I'm going to stick to it and I'm going to do this. And some people do that. Some people are able to accomplish that and able to stick with it and get to where they foresaw or where they wanted to go to, or were able to get out of where they didn't want to be. But many of us will say the same thing over and repeat that. I'm repeating the pattern, which is I set out to do it and I get a week into it and I just fall back. Whether it's a diet, whether it's quitting smoking, whether it is all these things that we do resolutions or feel compelled or feel like we want to be part of the crowd. Everyone else is doing it, so why shouldn't I do it? But if you are the one that you've done it and it doesn't work out, and then you get hard on yourself, and then you get, whether it's losing weight, you actually gain weight. Whether it is sticking to a diet, you actually eat worse than you did before. Or whether it's exercise, you become extra lazy. People notice these things and they say that that's the pattern. So I'm going to give you a suggestion for if that's you. Instead of trying harder, and that's what usually the thing is, I'm going to set my mind to try harder. I'm going to be nose to the grindstone, these types of things. And if you're the person that's overseeing that type of thing, your message would be stop your complaining and try harder. Your message would be, you know what, you really should feel guilty that you are not doing this. And do you see this and that you've done it again? If that's you, then your try harder is try lesser, okay? If you haven't tried trying less, which is get off your own back. Don't be so hard on yourself. Give up trying. That's to try. Start trying to not try. Now, for some people that are on this, they go, that doesn't make sense. But it does make sense to those that have tried. So think about it. Like you're a kid and you're trying to do something. You got a parent standing over you, and some kids look back and go, am I doing it right? And they see the smile and they feel encouraged and they get better and they get stronger or they remain consistent. But then there's the other kid, which is, you're making me nervous and I'm screwing it up, and you expected that of me, and I felt that expectation, and I just lived up to that expectation. And yes, I am a bad person, and yes, this is the answer for that is the watch pot never boils, which is if you are the person that has come up with some sort of resolve and you don't do it, try the other way, which is don't make a resolve. And part of this is maybe some time of the resolve, which is, am I getting better? If you sit back and don't put pressure on it and you look at it, you go, I actually am getting better. And many times, how do we know that we're getting better? Or how do we know that we are stopping something? Or how do we know that, like, I haven't reached that point yet? The first step is if you're questioning it. If you're observing it, then you're working on it. Now, one would think, I see that I made a mistake, and that's not fixing the mistake. Fixing the mistake is making a change, okay? But if you try to make the change and you keep ending back up in the same, then how about it's just enough to notice it? How about it's just enough to keep a view on it where you're not sticking pins in your own dowel? That makes sense. And I've seen that work. And I've seen that work in myself, and I've seen that work in a lot of other people, which is, can you love yourself just as you are? And loving yourself just as you are gives the opportunity to then do something different. Observing it is the observer effect, and sometimes that's enough. All you got to do is just think about it. All you got to do is put your focus on it and then take the pressure off of it and let it do it on its own. And you will find if you examine yourself, even just the questioning it or even just going, man, I did it again, is further than you were before. You had gone 5 times, 20 times before you noticed you had done it again. So that's progress. So can it be found that you already are making the progress and you're just too hard on yourself and you're not noticing it? That keeps it in a spiral. So a new thing to do is to not make a resolution, to resolve to not make a resolution. Just leave it as it is, but keep an eye on it. And then sometimes too, the other thing is that we don't get where we for say want to be because we haven't envisioned it yet. You literally have just seen it as I've done it the same thing and it's done it so many times that I expect that that's what's going to show up. And if it did show up the way that I wanted it, how do you know you would recognize it? It's so different and so foreign that you've not envisioned it. And can it be said that sometimes the repeating negative pattern is because I just have an inability to see it another way? So, when they talk about like having vision boards, about creating like, I first see myself on the beach. So put a picture of the beach up there. Many times we don't get there and we get hard on ourselves. And again, we're kind of really keeping ourselves in a negative loop because we're not meeting our expectations. But are our expectations high enough? Are our expectation realistic enough? And are we also, do we have the eyes to know that we are on the path of meeting our expectations? We are on the path of that. And that's enough. And quite frankly, it takes the pressure off because you have to understand that a change in behavior, a change in a habit is also biochemical. And biochemical meaning it's hormones, you secreting your own reward and punishment systems of yourself. Now, most of us, we're trying to make the change because we've externalized that, which is we've rewarded ourselves with food or drugs or sex or the other thing, which is the stimulative kind of chemical thing. And then we have hurt ourselves and tried to punish ourselves with depression and all of the negative hormones and the cortisol and all the other stuff. So we've been doing behavior modification all along, and it's very effective. But it's really not worked for us because it is happening in the background and we're not aware of it. And what you're not aware of, if you are loathed or you are determined to repeat it because it's a self-repeating pattern. And so part of it is it's a pattern that has to happen enough over a period of time. A lot of times we like to say it's actually 21 days that you repeat a pattern, which is 3 sevens. 7 is every 7 years you are new cells, completely new cells from top to bottom. And so it gets replaced with a new cell, like a new piece of paper that you can draw or put anything on it, like a stem cell. But the reason it becomes a scarred cell is because of a memory, and it's just repeating that thing, even though that has the potential to overcome. It has the potential to be fresh and new and something different. And so the potential is there, but is it the memory? And is memory even what we think it is? It's just a repeated pattern. If you stick with something long enough of a replacement for 21 days, it then starts to kind of be on its own. And so a lot of times the work can be done so much easier than we're really. And the other thing is as we're doing work, the easier that it is on us, the more downhill it feels, the more of the reward centers that we really turn on, which then concretizes it and gives it the greater potential or gives it the greater propensity to want to repeat itself because it's rewarded. There's a lot of things that we can also imply with this. We understand, like with behavior modification, which is it's smells. So finding a good smell. Hold on one second. This is another thing that we can do, which is when we do something that we want to seal in the deal and say, this is good and this feels good and this is right. We couple it with, say, a good memory, or we also couple it with, say, a smell, a good smell. Now, these toxic smells that are all around us are poisoning us and really screwing the brains up because they're not real. So the fake lavender and all these other things. So we can start to use smell. So this one's what's called a QC blend, which is it's in a base of a castor oil, but it also has, what else do we got in it? Rosemary and lavender and orange and lemon. These are things that no matter where you come from in the world, similar to like chocolate and coffee, is no matter where you come from the world, even if you've never been exposed to these things like cinnamon as well too, they are written into our biologic limbic system code, which is you smell the cinnamon or you smell the clove and you're transported into those good memories, the warm fuzzies of grandma or whatever. And these are universal. And when you have something that you want to be repeated in the brain, if you couple it with something that is just universally recognized as that's a good feeling, that's a good energy, that's a good vibration, the smell is a vibration, then it gets associated with that thing, and then it becomes, oh, I guess we want to do that again. We were rewarded, and it was a deep reward. So using something like the QC oil, or finding another oil like a peppermint or a lavender or lemon, a good essential oil that is a non-toxic essential oil, can be used to start to, when you have done what you want to do, even just a tiny little step, you can then seal the deal in terms of let it get cooked in with a number of different things. And we can use, like I said, we can also use memory type of things. So this year, when you notice that you've done a little bit, and sometimes the noticing is just noticing that you've done, you reward yourself, find something to reward yourself with. And it's not, don't do it sugar, don't do a drug, don't do sex, don't do exercise, even these types of things. A doing thing, don't do that anymore. Do a non-doing thing, which is smell the roses. Rose is another good thing. Also, find images of things that you like, whether it's old pictures of yourself or old pictures of your family when you were in a happier time, or even a made-up one. For some people, they'll leave it to Beaver, a story they never had, but they can put themselves in it, brings out the warm fuzzies. For me, it's a picture of an old fireplace with wood and stone, or being in those places. Find these things that you can then kind of look at, and or even just put it in your memory bank and kind of reward yourself for that, which is, that's the way I want to go. We can do it with sounds, okay? Pick a song that you, and whether you put it on a loop on your phone or put it in headphones, or hum it and sing it and remind you. You know, for some people, it's something as simple as you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. Simple little things like that transport you back into, yes, I feel better. Sometimes it is a memory of a place that you remember that was a good place for you. The childhood home, or your school, or something that you can picture in your mind, and no matter how old you were, how old you are now, you can, okay, I went down the stairs and there was the front door, and then you turn to the left and there's where my dad's den was, and I could go into the den if I wanted to, and then I can go into the desk, and there's the closet that had his coats and his hats, and then we go back again. You can create these things. They're already created. They're in your memory bank. They are places inside you that you can then take and go, oh, I'm going to put this into these good slots that are mine, that I can then build upon and say, this is why you want to go this way. This is why this way works better for you. This choice works better for you. And it works better on a deeper level that's associative. That if you really want to change, you change it these ways. They're soft. They're not hard. You don't punish yourself. And I'm not saying give yourself a punishment for even like the bad memory. That you're already doing that. Don't do that. Stop doing the bad memory. Stop doing the bad beating up on yourself. It doesn't work. It doesn't work, and it's not kind. And it's, again, that one story about the old Indian kid that was, grandfather, there's these two wolves inside of me, and they're pulling me apart, they're tearing me apart. And grandfather says, then just stop feeding the one that you don't want, and stop a behavior, create a new behavior, and deliberately feed. And when you notice that you are feeding this, even giving little scraps, stop it. And don't think you're being cruel to it, because it will go out there and have a life of its own. You're not killing it. Don't fight it. Just don't feed it, and feed what you want. Those are the memories. Those are the scents. Those are the images about where I could be. Where would I want to be in 5 years, 2 years? Where would I play with these things? And don't be hard on yourself if you don't make it. And realize, too, many times the reason you didn't make it is because it wasn't right for you. And have that as a possibility. Maybe God's protecting me from something that wouldn't even be as good as I thought it was. And know that that's what's in the process of everything that you see, and side with that and say, it must be good. It must be, because I know it's going to turn out right in the end. I know I'm going to get where I set my mind to, whether it be a lower weight, whether it be a stronger body, whether it be a healthier body, whether it be more stable, whether it be less habitual. What are all of these things? They are control. We're all being controlled, and we recognize I'm being controlled by these other things, and I want to get more control of that. I don't want to, but see, the control way of over-controlling it has gotten out of control. And so the best way to do it is just, I guess I'll just take my hands off the wheel and let it right itself, because it does. It can do that. And you're not going to steer into the ditch. You've been in the ditch trying to steer away from the ditch. One last part of this is, I use this as an analogy, and this one's been working for me a lot this past year. It makes sense for me, it makes sense for a lot of clients, which is, if you're lost and you don't know where you are, it's similar to JFK Jr. or somebody like him who crashed a small airplane. They were in a storm and they didn't know where they were. And the black box reads, and people watching it and seeing them, it's as if he tried to fly into the ground. And he did. You did. You flew directly into the ground because all your instincts were telling you were upside down, and all your instincts were telling you that's up. You're saving yourself. You're flying into the sky, but it's not the sky. It's the ground. So how would that person be saved? Is they knew where they were, or just tried this, which is, maybe I should go the other way. And what is the other way? The other way feels wrong to me. It feels like it's the ground, but it's really the sky, because the ground is what I'm flying into, feeling the sky. So reverse your feelings. Maybe if you fly and try and crash it, because if he would have turned himself around and go, I know my instincts are telling me this, but they're lying to me. It's wrong. I'm deceived. If I go the other way, I'm actually going into the sky. And once you get up past the clouds, then you'll be able to see, and you know that that's the right way. Sometimes we've been so hacked that our instincts are reverse. But see, that's good news, because if you do the opposite, you're going to get it. You're going to get it. It's just knowing when you're in that time. And there's always time to try that. Maybe I should try the opposite. Maybe the opposite is the way up, or the way out, the way through. And I'm telling you, if you live long enough, that will be a principle that will be true. It's just, is that where you're at right now? Try it on for size. And it always works. It always works. Does it always work forever? No, because it then changes too. Where then you get enough energy, and then the true thing is you're right. Do try harder. You're right. Be more hard on yourself, per se. But not always. There's a time for that, and there's a time for not. And when you've been stuck in the pattern of the time of being hard on yourself and really trying to stick to the grits and it not working, and in fact, it working the opposite, then do the opposite and let yourself go. And observe yourself and love yourself. Could you love yourself just the way you are? Could you love yourself even if you've never changed? That's the secret to changing. And it'll happen easy. And it's like rolling off a log. And then, so, until next time, bye-bye.